Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out to this wonderful event. My name is Justin. I serve as pastor at Lake Edge Lutheran Church, which we both share this faith with Christ Solid Rock at Lake Edge as the more congregation, the historical congregation here, as well as our new partnership with Monona Grove Nursery School. It's always been our hope to be a centralizing place in the neighborhood for faith conversation and for action, and Lake Edge has always been a kind of a part of that in a lot of ways. So welcome back. A couple of you guys said, well, I used to be members here. Welcome home. Welcome back. Couple things. Men's bathroom is down this corridor there. Women's bathroom is down this corridor there. Non-binary is at the bottom of the stairs. If you need an elevator to use it, that's also to the right this way as well. There's more fellowship afterwards. Hopefully, I will not eat all the cookies. So there'll be a little bit of fellowship afterwards as well. I want to invite Tim up as the co-coordinator of this event and to welcome you to them. So thank you for coming to our space and welcome.
I want to invite up two other co-coordinators to be on each side of me, if you would. Dandelion and Annie. The three of us have been working together since Annie planted the seed we do these things called building unity gatherings. Now, how many of you out there feel it's time to unite for people, for peace, and the planet? So that's what it's about. We're really one movement for people, peace, and the planet. It's not complicated, right? We just stop killing people, and we take all the money we've been spending killing people, and we take care of the people that need help, right? So that's the conversation I'm committed to make sure that every human being is having with every other human being that's breathing. It's time for the people on Earth to stop killing people and take the resources we spend killing people and put it towards solving the ecological and human crises that we are in. Thank you, brother. Thank you. So I love that thing, in Black culture where they really affirm you as you're speaking. Isn't that a good thing? We white folks got to pick that up, that is really, when you're a speaker up here and you're scared, and all of a sudden somebody goes, yeah. It's like, whoa, that changes everything. Thank you. Anyway, I know I'm taking, thank you, sister. I know I'm taking way much time, but I want to say a few important things. This is a horrible time on planet Earth. It's a horrible time in America. And we are in really tough place, but also because it's so bad, it's the beautiful transition. It's the beautiful crisis that is also an amazing opportunity. Are you all with me on that? So we are rising. You can feel it. It's happening everywhere. And I'm so honored to be with these champions of justice that we're going to hear tonight. But I want to say this is part of a 3-day, 4-event thing. So please join us, not just tonight, but tomorrow night at First Unitarian Society, the home of Reverend Kelly Asprooth Jackson there. They're hosting elected leaders who will answer some of these same questions about nonviolence and how we get going. And then the next day, we'll be doing the caravan. We're getting our cars up to the Capitol by 1 o'clock. There are signs out in the hall. If you're going to be in the caravan, you can take a sign with you. We've got these little print-up ones you can print. But let's make a big splash on Sunday, build momentum, and then get involved with our network. Annie, Jill, and I are tired, and we need more helpers, people that can fill out little forms or make phone calls or organize their little community. Jill is working on getting nonviolent action teams going in every congregation, every neighborhood, every union, every school community. I mean, she's not doing it, right? But she's trying to coordinate it all so we're all answering to the same drumbeat, right? Because that's what we need. If we're all going in our separate directions, we're lost. And Annie's working on getting the finest trainers and becoming one of the finest trainers of nonviolence theory and practice so that all of us can get trained in this community how to do nonviolent action. So it's an exciting time. We're trying to pull everybody together. We don't want to do everything, but if we all get coordinated, we can all find our lanes, help each other, and build one of the most amazing movements in the country. The Madison nonviolent people, right? All right. Thank you very much for this time, and thank you. Oh, and I want to thank you, brother. You know, I reached out to the Honorable Reverend Everett Mitchell, scared as can be, like, who am I calling Everett Mitchell? But he's just said yes, and yes, and yes, and he's just such a leader and a voice for the people's movement, and we wouldn't be this far if I didn't have the good fortune of inviting him and him saying yes to our launch party on January 24th. That just filled the house, and it got people fired up.
Let's give it up for Tim, man. Show him some love and appreciation for his work, vision, and dedication. All right. One thing I want to say thank you all so much to my great friend Justin. He's a pastor of Lake Edge. We've been really fighting this idea that Sunday morning need not be the most segregated hour in America. So our commitment was to co-locate together. Lake Edge, Christ of Solid Rock, a Lutheran church and a Baptist church, Lutefisk and Chitlins. That's what we call it. Lutefisk and Chitlins together, right? And so we're so grateful for that partnership, long-term love in this communities together. But every great organizing event, every great organizing moment begins when small groups come together to make sure that they stay connected to the issues that are important, that are essential. This conversation we're having tonight is really about how do we bring together and keep together our faith community so that we remain active. We were just kind of joking. It was kind of joking and funny. But the idea is, how do we keep it simple, keep our communication fresh, stay connected to each other so that the moment that we need to be activated, we can be activated. Because what happens on the first Wednesday of every month in Dane County? Right? No matter where you are downtown, you hear them sirens throughout Dane County. Why? Because that siren is a way to remind us that danger can happen and that we all need to be prepared for the same signal at the same time, at the same moment, and we all can respond. If there is no greater moment that tells us we need to be prepared for that signal, it is right now. Can y'all agree to that? And so the charge for us right now is not to go back into what's normal, not to go back into what's comfortable, but to challenge ourselves to step outside the box. And this conversation tonight is a way of organizing, of bringing together leaders, people who are on the ground, people who are passionate, people who have been fighting for justice a lot longer than most of us can ever realize. And that passion, that desire is to link us together, our congregations together, our faith traditions, and find what binds us and not what separates us. I can fill up a book about what separates us, but it's time for us to fill a book up about what brings us together. And more importantly, what holds us together in crises like this. Y'all with us? So before we get started, we're going to start with Art. He's always got to do our land acknowledgement. Got to acknowledge the fact that we stand on the love and the land of our indigenous community. So we'll start with Art, and then after that, I'm joined by my great friend, great colleague, great mentor, great teacher, great leader, Pastor David Hart. He's a great man of God, great leader, and so he's going to be my co-moderator tonight. We're going to hear from the leaders on this table, and then after that, we will offer you an opportunity to offer some of these great leaders questions about ways in which we can make sure that we stay connected together. We have love. I have ushers. In the black church, we have ushers. I adopted these two as my ushers here. And so they have cards. Stand up. You got to stand up so they can see your card. So they got cards. If you have any cards or any ideas you want to write down for the panel, please let us know. But let's welcome the table for Art as he gives us this welcoming introduction.
Welcome to my country. As I sit up here tonight with all the leaders here, how does it feel to have the foot, I'm in the shoe on the other foot now? As Native American leader and a spiritual leader, my people have always had to protect what we've had. We've given. When Columbus came, we should have sank those boats. I used to never think that way. But it's kind of pushed me to the brink of where I can't sleep. Because I'm worried about my brothers and sisters. I've always been worried about my elders on our own land, getting pushed off, getting taxed. And then people come up to me and say, "Do you pay taxes?" Of course I do. You know, I'm the only one here in this whole room. I have to have a tribal ID to show you my blood quantum. How much Indian am I? Reverend, how much black are you? How much white are you? Do any of you have to have a blood quantum to prove how much you are? As a Native American person here, I'm the only one that has to prove how much Indian I am by blood quantum. How ridiculous is that? And I still have to fear for my own life, from ICE to come to my house and tear me out. Not just me, but all of us now. People that you've elected, people that you've put in office by a vote, and now you can't get him out. He's like a cockroach. And we need to exterminate him through prayer, to whatever we need to do. But anyways, I want to just tell you, yeah, I'm very upset about what's going on. I don't believe what's going on. And none of us should have to do this. None of us. As spiritual people, and when you see what's on TV, you can't believe your eyes. You think you're watching a sci-fi. What's happening in real life? Where some person gets shot like an animal 10 times. That's very inhumane. And you see this stuff on TV. And we have to protect our children and grandchildren, the seventh generation, from what's happening. Believe you me, our children and grandchildren see what's happening. Although we see that they're not paying attention. Oh, they are. They're definitely paying attention to what's going on, what's happening, and they don't like it. They're ferried. What are we going to do? How are they going to do? But anyways, Mama Colonel, I asked that you would watch over all my relatives that are here and around, that are in the detention centers that cannot be found. I ask that you would help some way that they are relatives bringing them home safe and sound. Watch over all of them in these detention centers. We don't need these detention centers. They're like cages in a zoo. They're not being taken care of. Where's our money going? To these detention centers. It's not right. Mama Kono, I ask that you watch over all of our relatives that are in these detention centers to bring them home. Stop this chaos. And watch over all my brothers and sisters that are here and around the world. Thank you for allowing us to be here to talk and share, to be at one with one another as we're supposed to be. Mama Cornado. I hope.
All right. All right. Wise and powerful words. My brother, I certainly don't have to carry a card with me to prove how Native American I am, but we are on the other side of a very similar coin. We simply know that from time immemorial here in this country, that all we have to do is have one drop of blood in us, and that subjugates us to second-class citizenship. And so we honor your experience, and we lift your experience. Are you all ready to hear from these experts tonight? If you're ready, say yeah. All right. So the first question that I want to ask and that we want to ask is, we want them to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their faith experience and how their faith experience informs their call for justice, their call for community responsibility, and for nonviolence. Let's start here.
Thank you. Great to be here. An honor to be on this panel with these amazing folks. Thank you. My name is Brian Lavendel. I'm here as the Jewish representative on this panel. I'm not a faith leader. I wouldn't even call myself a religious Jew. I'm a cultural Jew. And I take my Jewish heritage very seriously and very much to heart. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. My mom was born in Poland, and she was 9 years old when Nazi Germany invaded that country. So I've been asked why I'm here, why I'm doing immigrant rights work. Well, it's because a family in Warsaw, Poland, took my mom in when she was 12 years old after having survived that first part of the war. Took her in, gave her false papers, a false name, and kept her hidden from the Nazis. They did that at great personal risk. I mean, the whole family was in danger for doing that. And so I tell you, when the stormtroopers started coming for my neighbors, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I might not be here if people hadn't done that for my mom, and so that's what brings me here. Thank you.
I am Walter Baires. I am a pastor in the Lutheran Church. I just want to let you know that Lutherans come in different flavors and in different colors too. Even though 99% of the church is white, but we have those flavors here and there, and it's good to be part of that of a church that isn't perfect, but try to be a church that can walk with the people of God. So I was born in El Salvador. I was born and raised in El Salvador. I became a Lutheran when I was there. The church in El Salvador was a very prophetic church. I survived the Civil War. I learned a lot from Bishop Romero and also from my bishop, Bishop Medardo Gomez. Both, are already witness, what we call the cloud of witness. And now I am serving here as one of the assistants to the bishop. I've been here in the United States for more than 20 years, and I had to bring my passport everywhere I go. because I had to prove that I am an American citizen now. And that doesn't mean that I can be respected. So, in our baptism in the Lutheran Church, we make a promise. And let me read the promise that we make when we are baptized. We promise to live among God, faithful people, to hear the word of God and share in the Lord's Supper as a community, to proclaim the good news of God in Christ through word and deed, and to serve all people, following the example of Jesus, and to strive for justice and peace. Basically, what we're saying is we promise to continue growing in our faith, learning about the scriptures, partaking together in the community of believers in the sacrament of the Holy Communion. So, by being fed by the word and the sacraments, being able to work and to do God's work in the world, which is to work for the well-being of the whole community and to work for peace and justice. So that is what is bringing me here tonight.
Thank you.
Tashitole, everybody. Kuzuzangpo, happy Losar. We are in the second day of the Tibetan New Year, which is my New Year. We are entering what is called the Year of the Fire Horse. This year comes every 60 years, and it is a year of real societal shifts. This is a year that is seen as a harbinger in my tradition of real societal change, massive change. So the prayers have been going nonstop in the monasteries and the communities. You know, there is this beauty of having all of us be here from our different traditions, because just in us coming together, there is something that is so clear to me, which is the fact that we have all chosen to not other one another, right? And that's why you've shown up. We've all shown up with this energy of not othering, and how radical that is, and how disruptive that is, right? That actually what we are saying just by showing up together is that we do not choose violence, we do not choose hate, we do not choose systems of oppression, right? That we actually can stand fast together. I am Tibetan Buddhist. I am from the Himalayas. I'm from the Bhutia tribe. We're an Indo-Tibetan tribe in the Himalayas, and I came to the US to study when I was a teenager, 1990. I arrived, and a few months later, Rodney King was dragged in LA. That was my introduction to America. And it's funny, because my family in the north, the Tibetan family, they were taken over by China. And my family and the family in the south were taken over by India. And we're all same people with completely different experiences based on the governments that rule us. So from a very young age, what was really clear to me was that borders are man-made. It means nothing. You know, I'm an environmental scientist. The earth does not recognize any of these political borders, right? And then what was really clear to me is that the systems that are created, that have been set up, really are set up to benefit very few people. And my tradition, and in Buddhism, our emphasis is very much on compassion and interdependence, right? From all of our meditation, our religion, as you call it, really is mind training. So we kind of embody the spirit of compassion and interdependence. But what was fascinating to me when I came to the West is to see how Buddhism has been co-opted by the systems of oppression. It's something I've been pushing back again for the last 20 years, you know. And that when we think about justice, ultimately, what do we mean by justice? What we mean by justice is that every living being has the right to exist alongside one another without being harmed, right? That's all we mean by justice. And how fascinating it is that to some people that is violence, you know? So as a Buddhist, I spend a heck of a lot of time meditating on this. trying to understand how this value, this concept can be violence to other people. And trying to think through the work I do on environmental and climate issues, how do we transform the systems that uphold this way of being and this way of thinking? And having said that, now that I said I'm an environmental scientist, I have to say I'm here on my personal capacity and not representing my employer, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I am so honored to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Good evening, friends. My name is Kelly. I am one of the ministers of the First Unitarian Society of Madison. I'm Unitarian Universalist, not a very well understood religious movement, so you're forgiven for however little you understand it. But two of our core teachings are, first, that every human personality is of infinite worthiness, that we are irreplaceable, and that that worthiness is indestructible, not because we are inherently perfect or even inherently good, but because all of us have the capacity in every moment of our lives to choose to do what is right in the face of what is wrong, although time and time again, so many of us make the wrong choices. And the other core teaching that's bringing me here tonight is that all of our lives are fundamentally interconnected to each other, that my survival, my freedom, my flourishing depends on your survival, your freedom, your flourishing. That this interconnectedness is inescapable. There is no hope of a free and good life that is separate from others. We have to live and thrive together. So that's my philosophical, theological, what brings you here? But there is also just a very deep point of profound self-interest, and I want to acknowledge that. My tradition is a tradition of heresy. Across the 1800 plus years of our existence, we have been on the outside of whatever local authority had its own preferred version of religion. We were basically never that. Here in the United States, the last couple hundred years, we've done very well for ourselves. Mostly through not being very well understood, but that's okay. We've lived in relative comfort and in relative security. That may, in fact, be changing. Being of a religion of heretics tells me that my place is with the people of the margins. Tells me that my responsibility is to be in solidarity with the people who are considered other, worthless, beneath the consideration of the powerful in whatever place I happen to be living. So I'm really pleased to be with you tonight. Thank you for the invitation.
My name is Art Chagoni. I'm a member of the Menominee and Potawatomi tribes of Wisconsin. Both my families, well, my mother is Menominee, who was born on the Menominee Indian Reservation in Wisconsin. And my father was born up in Arpin, Wisconsin. There was a big Potawatomi settlement up there. And all the 11 tribes gathered up there for ceremonies. My grandfather was a big drum chief. So therefore, I am what they call a hereditary drum chief because of my grandfather and my uncle, my namesake, the one that I'm named after. And I didn't find out all this because I was taken away when I was about 5 years old. But I was in a sanitarium in De Pere, Wisconsin with my mother. And I was removed from the De Pere Hickory Grove Sanitarium in De Pere when I was about 4 years old, separated from my mom and put into a foster home. I had three brothers and 2 sisters, and all of them, we got all separated. And I'm the only one out of my brothers and sisters that are alive today. And so, as a spiritual leader, dancer, performer, I've had to come up through the ranks. And it wasn't, I didn't choose this way of life, it chose me. Other people chose me or put me in this place. And I'm sorry for my harshness when I opened up, but sometimes it's not just me feeling this. How many of you can be honest tonight with yourselves? Have sleepless nights? Have woken up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and then can't get back to sleep because of what's going on? I've had those nights, and I paced back and forth and thinking to myself, do I have to lock my door? Where I never used to have to do that before. Waiting for somebody to knock on, or not even knock on my door, just break my door down and take me out. And ask me who I am for my papers. Take me off my own land. Oh, it's like, wow. We have 11 tribes here in Wisconsin. A lot more tribes throughout the United States and Canada that were recognized. Each one of them had to be displaced, replaced, moved around, switched around. And our language, and our own country where we were born, our first language was Ojibwe, or whatever language that we came from. And we got put in these boarding schools. And we're told not to speak our language. We're beat, our hair cut, and told not to speak our language. Our culture was erased. They tried to erase our culture. But this medicine wheel here talks about coming together, peace, balance, harmony, and unity with one another. If you look up in your book, the white buffalo calf, that was a prophecy. Matter of fact, that prophecy is real. You know how real it is? How many of you know where Janesville, Wisconsin is? Just in my recollection right now, Overlooking Horse is the keeper of the white buffalo calf pipe. He's a really high spiritual leader. He doesn't make any bones about it. He goes anywhere he wants. He doesn't have a big entourage. Now, if he had the Pope coming, what does he come in? A huge caravan. Security. Everything like that. But our spiritual leaders, we don't need that. We have our faith that we're going to be protected by. But what I'm saying is that everybody in here, you're all minorities. You're all immigrants. So how is it when your own people is trying to get rid of you? That would be like me as a Native American going into my own people and trying to get rid of them. Saying that you're not Indian enough, or you're too Indian, or you don't give me enough money, or enough fry bread. Anyway, it's just ridiculous sometimes, and having to bargain for our treaty rights, having to bargain for our lives, our children, our grandchildren's lives, it's not right. And now, people that, one of the things I wanted to say too is that, yes, even in Indian country, we have stupid people. We have idiot Republicans. Idiot Republicans, and I will say that because we had a couple of the people from the Crandon that were elected officials, they gave up their position on the Crandon Reservation to go work for the Trump administration. Now, how crazy is that? Your own people selling you out down the river. And not only that, but in Kansas, there was Republicans in Kansas that were trying to, they sold out because Trump offered them a whole bunch of money for these, what do they call them? Detention centers? And our people didn't like it, and they kicked them all out. And they took back over. They said, no, we're not going to do that. That's not what our people were for. So yeah, we do have stupid people in our Indian communities too. You know, in this medicine, well, when I heard that, it didn't make no sense to me. Native American Republicans going against their own values. So yeah, we have stupid people too. And I didn't believe in that, but you know, I have to let you know the truth, you know, the truth and nothing but the truth, you know. And the thing is, what gift did New York get? What gift did New York get from another country? The what? Yeah. And why? And what does it say in there? And what else does it say? Uh-huh. And you're immigrants. But anyways, it's so silly. But you know, I'm here to represent my Indian people and let you know the truth. That yeah, I get a little upset what's going on too. It's very hard to be a spiritual person when you see all this stuff happening. And you're thinking, I had relatives, great aunts and uncles that have joined up for the military to fight for this country. All of us have. And I tell my grandchildren and grandchildren, you have to listen to and respect your elders. So when they see stuff like this happen, your own, or I don't know, this person in the White House is supposed to be leading all of us, taking your money and my money that we don't even have any to do with it, and selling us down the land, and then wants to take over another country. Anyways, but I try my best, and I listen. And when I was going there, was the white buffalo happened in Janesville, Wisconsin. The prophecy said that the white buffalo would turn different colors, the black, the yellow, the red, and it did. And today I tell people that Janesville is probably one of the most sacred places you can go because of that white buffalo calf. So that prophecy has happened. And when Overlooking Horse came, all the spiritual leaders came from South Dakota. They said, yes, you do have a prophecy. It was real. And not only that, but the reason why she couldn't stay, she didn't live any longer, is because we, as Americans, our people, human beings, are still being disrespectful to one another and killing each other and disrespecting Mother Earth. That's why she could not stay, because we are not ready for that prophecy to happen yet. But today what we're having is we can make that prophecy come to light, where she can come back again. So anyways, thank you very much. I hope.
Thank you, Brother Art. Thank you. So we'll keep our comments short so we can make sure we can get to everybody, all right? We've shared 6 principles of nonviolence. Which principle most resonates with you, and how have you seen it lived out in your tradition? Really what I want the people to know is how we live out those principles of nonviolence in your own traditions. And we can start and the other way around, I guess. Go ahead. No, you.
looking at the list, the third principle is the one that stands out to me. Nonviolence seeks to defeat injustice, not people. The focus is on eliminating oppressive systems or unjust actions rather than harming individuals. I want to say that I'm committed to the practice of nonviolence, the discipline of nonviolence, and I am committed to it as a matter of tactics and strategy. I am not a strict pacifist. There are strict pacifists in my religious tradition. I happen not to be one. But I do believe that as a matter of strategy and tactics, this is the correct response both to the situation that we are faced with in this moment and in general. I am not a person who is good at doing violence. I know that about myself. But also, I am best equipped to make common cause with others through nonviolent practice, right? Through the willingness to resist unjust action, including unjust violence, by a spiritual discipline, not of passivity, but of non-harmful counteraction. One story that is very important for my particular tradition is the story of the story of Selma during the Civil Rights Movement. Probably it is obvious that was not our story, right? It's about the liberation of a group of people that overwhelmingly were not Unitarian Universalists. But like a lot of other religious traditions, right? When Dr. King asked people to come to Selma, people in my movement responded. And two of those people were the Reverend James Reeb and a woman named Viola Liuzzo. They both showed up from places that they did not live in. Viola was from Michigan. James was coming from DC, right? They came to Selma and they put themselves at risk simply by being there, and it cost both of them their lives. That story, not of any sort of meritorious martyrdom, right? We don't think that it's a good thing they were killed. It's an evil thing they were killed. But being willing to risk the consequences of living out your own morality is, it's an story for us. It is like what we are taught as Unitarian Universalists, Unitarian Universalism is about.
I thought I was going to go with 3, but I'm going to go with 1 now. You know, earlier I said that I've pushed back so much about the way Buddhism has been co-opted in the West. And for me, it's so interesting how mindfulness shows up. How many of you have heard about mindfulness? How many of us how many of you have seen the headlines? The top 500, Fortune 500 CEOs have one thing in common. They all practice mindfulness. So it's so interesting because in my language, in the Tibetan word, mindfulness actually is tenpa. And tenpa, if you strictly translated it, is not mindfulness, it's remembering. It's a verb, it's not a noun. You don't get to buy it. You use it, you do it, right? So no one's making money off of this thing that anybody could do. All of us can remember all day long what we need to remember, right? And the thing from the Buddhist tradition, from my tradition that I was taught, okay, I'll pause and say, it always makes me laugh when people in the West talk about Buddhism being an easy religion. Let me tell you why. It's because ever since I can remember, I was taught to practice. I am the daughter of a Tibetan Buddhist nun. She took her vows when I was 7, so that was it. I was raised by the Tibetan Buddhist nuns. And what I was taught was mindfulness, and the way I was taught it was you remember all day long that you're gonna die. Easy, huh? Easy religion. And so all day long, our practice is, you know what? It's impermanent. Everything you're attached to right now is impermanent. The land, you know, our idea that we own the land, right? Our idea that the land belongs to us instead of we belonging to the land, right? The buildings, the wealth, the money, all of it is impermanent. And so what remains? when you are taught all the time that everything is impermanent, what remains? What remains is this conviction that you want to live in the right way. You want to live in a way that is consistent with your values, because you're going to die sooner or later. I would so love to tell the Fortune 500 CEOs, y'all are going to die. Is this how you want to go? Is this really what you want to take when you go? You know, because you can't take any of this with you. And so I joke about it a little bit, but what I really want to get at is the way we're taught mindfulness is that it's a discipline, because you have to discipline yourself again and again to remember this. Because it's not a fun memory. It's, you know, having a core memory, which is like, oh, I'm here for a minute and then I'm gone. You know, constantly having to meditate on that. But what it does do is create perspective, because it reminds you that you're just here for a flicker of a moment. And you belong to the entire cosmos. And you might circulate again and again. Certainly our material parts do, you know. We live, we're born, hopefully we thrive while we're here, right? We pass and we decay and decompose, and it's quite magical. We become part of life again and again. So there is this incredible rebirth that happens, right? The design is so beautiful, you know. But the thing is, what do we want to leave behind when we're here for a short moment? And that question, probably if I asked you this and what comes out instinctively? You can say it. What do you want to leave behind? Love. Am I right? All of us, love. And that, to me, the heart of nonviolence, the courage, the discipline, all of that, we have to discipline ourselves all day long to remember, why are we doing this work? Why are we doing systems change? Why are we doing racial justice? Why do we do climate justice? We do it out of love.
I choose number 5. Non-violence chooses love instead of hate. My colleagues and church members in Chicago and in Minneapolis, along with other faith traditions, have demonstrated that hate can be defeated with the power of love. There is a long way to go. But we have this belief that in this struggle, God is in our side. When we walk with the most vulnerable, when we walk with the oppressed, when we walk with the marginalized, God is there.
That's right.
And so that is, with that understanding, we continue to believe that love can overcome hate. Even though sometimes feel like hate is gaining more power and gaining and making us sometimes like we are defeated. But the last, signs that I saw are that no, that's not true. It can be pushed, and it can be pushed hard, as long as we are willing, number one, to work together, and number two, to drive forces out of that love that we can share. In our Christian understanding, that love comes through Jesus. And Jesus started the way of love, the way of compassion, and the way of mercy. So that is the force that keeps us moving. And I think in my own experience is what keeps me alive.
I'll answer by way of a story. Yesterday, I met a young man for lunch. I don't know his exact age. He might be 19, 20 years old. I asked him out for lunch because of the amazing work that he was doing, organizing communities in immigrant solidarity work. And so we met for lunch, and he, after a bit of conversation, he said to me, just so you know, I used to be like a right wing, like I went down the right wing, like hole. And so he was saying that to let me know that he knew like what sort of strategies and tactics the right wing was taking. And I asked him, so what? How did you get out of that? And he said, I hit rock bottom. And he said he took a class in college, a political science class. And I guess I just want us to think about, do we have a place for those agents, those ICE agents who are like ripping people off the street and like beating people and shooting them? Do we have a place for them at this table? I mean, in our community? That's a question I have for us.
I think one of the most timely principles is seeking to eliminate institutions that create oppression rather than the people. I don't know that we need to say more about that. We've heard some wonderful stories here, and we have drilled down on this. But at the end of the day, from all of our traditions and from all of our faiths, we believe in humanity. We believe that people are generally good folks. It is the institutions that have been built that we need to dismantle. I think that's it.
You know, one of the things I was going to say too about the back in Wounded Knee, people don't know is that it was a very sacred time for the Lakota people when things were going to happen. Before it happened, what they were preparing, what the Native American people were preparing to do was they were going to dance in solidarity. They were going to dance for healing. They were going to dance and use their prayers for Tunkashala to come to help them. But it didn't happen that way. The 7th Cavalry was afraid of the ghost dance. And the ghost dance was for peace, balance, and harmony. But because they didn't get that far, it never happened. It was a slaughter of men, women, and children. So something that was so beautiful, the dance, and the drum, and the religion, was the spirituality of the Indian people. It wasn't for violence. It was for dance and for peace, balance, and harmony. And they got killed and slaughtered for it before it could even happen.
Thank you all so much. Are y'all enjoying this conversation? This is absolutely. Pastor Hart said something that was very interesting. This is not on y'all. This is not on your list of questions, right? He said that we have to be committed to dismantling the institutions, the systems that all the times are using its things to oppress and dehumanize people. I know we've talked about whether or not the table is open in Christ and love and remembering and the power of remembering and risking. But where do you see our next efforts if we're going to, take this moment and move it beyond? What do you think our religious traditions or your religious traditions are pushing us to do the next steps? What do we need to be doing next from your perspectives? Who wants to be first to jump in on that one?
I think we need to find our common ground and look for the well-being of our neighbors and unifying our effort. I think when we are isolated, it is easy to lose our struggles. So coming together, I think, is one big step that we can make. And knowing that this struggle is not for 2 days or for 1 week or 1 month.
That's right.
It is for life. And so, to me, I think that's the most important piece is finding the common ground and looking for the well-being of our communities and unifying our efforts.
One of the things that we do as Native Americans is that, matter of fact, many people don't know this, but in Minneapolis, the 2 people that were killed, the Native American people held a sacred fire, and it's still going yet today. They put a sacred fire where these people were killed. They held a fire there, and it's still going yet. And so, when I hear about people that are even our relatives that passed away, we have a sacred fire for them. We let it go for 4 days, and we put our tobacco, and other people come to help tend that fire, to put prayers in that fire and pray for all those people, pray for those spirits that have left us. So as Native American people, we use sacred fires, and we pray for each other, and we hold that accountability to each other, although we're going through that grieving time, and that fire does something for us, and the tobacco and the ceremonies, we still hold those traditions all over America, all over the United States and Canada, have sacred fires for certain people that have passed away. They hold these fires, and they're still done yet today.
We have to bring all the movements together, right? This morning, I'm going to tell a story. This morning, my lips were dry, and I was putting some Vaseline on, and I was just looking at that thingy, and then suddenly I noticed what it says. It says, is it not working? Is this better? This is better? Okay. I can speak louder. And what I saw was it said petroleum jelly. How many of y'all have paid attention to that? I'm an environmental scientist. I work on climate change. I had this moment where I was like, what am I putting on my lips right now? Right? And then you think about what's on our bodies. How many of us are wearing polyester? How many of us are wearing fleece? That's petroleum byproduct. That's plastic. Microplastics in the brain, in embryos, on top of Mount Everest, everywhere, right? The petroleum industry figured out how to make money out of their sludge. And then they hired a bunch of marketing companies to market to us, environmentalists, that cotton is terrible for the environment. This happened in the 90s while I was still working, in the mainstream environmental movement and for this organization. We all bought it. Somehow we were all convinced that cotton is bad and fleece is good. And we all shifted, right? So what's really critical for us as movements that we are part of is that we take a step back and we recognize the obstacle. We're all facing the same obstacle. People who make money, 1% that makes money off of the 99% have figured out a way to capitalize pain, suffering, racial tension and hatred, right? Us othering one another, us being isolated and separate. They've figured out how to make money off of all of this. And so the fight we have individually in our movements as people, people of faith, communities, it's the same fight. And this moment was always coming. I mean, as someone who works on climate change, it's almost like, it's been like clockwork. We knew When it gets tough and they start running out of fossil fuels, that's when the wars are going to begin, right? We've always known this. It's been predicted since the 70s this moment is coming, and here we are. And so we have to get really real about the divisions and take it really seriously. And this comes, I love seeing this word again and again, the discipline word, right? We have to be really disciplined about breaking down those barriers. We have to go into each other's worlds. We have to. I have a project. I work with some of the most conservative evangelical pastors. They don't vote like me. They don't think like me. We only agree on one thing, which is creation must be protected. We have to be in the spaces where people other us. We can choose not to other them back, because that's the only way out of this.
I have very little to contribute here. I really only want to add to what's been said. I think we have to find not just the lowest common denominator, but the highest common denominators between us. I was very, very briefly in Minnesota last month, and the lesson I'm taking back from the Twin Cities is the importance of building thick relationships across different groups in a community, not surface level stuff, getting into depth, connection, the places where our real differences do show up, and we can acknowledge them, and maybe they chafe against each other, but we still want to hang in it together. And then this is not actually a message for the whole of the audience. It's primarily a message for people who look in one way or another like me. It's a message for the white people. It's a message for the straight people. It's a message for the men. Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Renee's primary crime that she was murdered for was probably being a woman, if we're honest, but they both shared the quality of being assassinated for the crime of seeing people who do not look like them as though they were their brothers and sisters, as though they were their siblings. Right? And it is that type of solidarity that the regime is afraid of. So when we show up, and I'm talking to the white people, straight people, the men primarily, when we show up in coalition with the people who do not share our privileges, that's when the people in power get scared.
Oh. Thank you. I guess when you said institutions, I might have a different version of institutions. The institutions I want to abolish are white superiority, American exceptionalism, patriarchy. Can we talk about the toxic masculinity that's driving so much of the harm that's happening now? I was raised with that, in the air that I breathe, and it's really important for me to put myself in spaces where I can hear different versions of history, of reality, the real stories. These are not stories that were taught to me in school. These are stories I've had to seek out, and I put myself in places where I could hear them. So, Art, thank you for sharing the stories that you share with us, because we need to hear those stories. And until we come to terms with the history of how this nation was founded and of what it runs on, until we come to terms with that, I don't think we're going to be able to heal.
I would say one of the things when we talk about discipline, I always add the word intentionality, right? So like the discipline of being intentional about crossing the boundaries, being in spaces. And I'll just share just like one hurt from our congregation that has made the work difficult, right? Because, I'm like this person who believes in justice and fairness, equality, intentionality. But also from the perspective of obstacles from our community that makes it hard, and I'm trying to heal my church. It's like we had partnered with a white church down the road. We had done great work. We had all these covenants. We had all of these things that we had committed ourselves to doing. And we had worked 5 years, worked through COVID, brought together each other. And and their congregation was about to close, and the commitment was, Christ is Solid Rock, y'all can take over the building, continue to do great ministry, continue to do great things in the community. We were all excited, everything happened, and then all of a sudden, the moment that they were in crisis, they revoked their commitment. And so I had this whole beautiful black congregation that had been bought into this idea of solidarity and fighting for justice and equality, and then white people did the very thing that they always knew that they were going to do. And when they betrayed us and we ended up homeless, it made a whole congregation of black people feel like there is no hope toward bringing us together. So I think a lot of times the risk that we take as people of color to step into these spaces to say, let's build the common good, the higher good, it comes at a cost to us because we're also paying attention to the historical legacies when we're looking at the same people that look like the same folks who hurt us every day, and yet we're being asked to bear the burden one more time. And I think that's the struggle of this movement that we have to make sure that we bring into the space is how many times our backs continue to be whipped, while at the same time people are asking us to continue to fight for more justice. And so even moving into this place, it was like a solemn, broken heart, because the echoes of Dr. King's messages started to recede to a place where people didn't seem hopeful at all. And it made people not want to fight more. It made people not want to try anymore. It made people want to just settle into the rhythm of forgetting that there could be hope. So, but Justin, we came in here and we smiled and we had a great ceremony and we laughed and we cried. And one Sunday, all of my congregation got on these altars right here. And we crowd the altars with the discipline of crying out to God in prayer. It hopes not that we have a place, buildings are buildings, but what's most important is to not lose the love and the hope of what could be possible when racism and hate really does come and try to take and strip us of that beauty. So I want us to give this last question as we round out this panel, because I believe building unity is one of the places that's really trying to give us a space to hold our high intentions, to keep our disciplines and our rhythms together, to make sure that we retain our sacred fires and to hold our stories together, and to make sure that we live out the principles of love. But I got to end this conversation with this idea is, what is it that for each one of you that wakes you up and gives you hope? Gives you hope. And if you have one burning question that you want to ask the panel, we got some ushers on the side that they passing out those cards. You can write them down and send them to us. But I really want to know, what is it, the theme that gives y'all hope?
Thank you for that. What gives me hope is seeing us gathered together, being here in community, showing up. What gives me hope is the work I've had the chance to do with Voces de la Frontera. An amazing organization. And as I mentioned, putting myself in places where I could be led by the folks who were most affected, most impacted. Close my mouth and listen to people, learn from them, step back, and offer support rather than criticism. I mentioned this training I had growing up in this society, in this culture of thinking I knew better, or I was smarter than, or I was better than. And it's been a real empowering experience to dispense with that and to slow down and to take, it's funny, like I find if I keep my mouth closed, someone says something better than I was going to say anyhow. So, and I guess the one other piece I want to add is for us for us white folks in the room is, we might feel urgent about the time. We might feel like we gotta hurry up and do something. I would encourage us to slow down, get grounded, get connected. one of my mentors says, you can only move as fast as the speed of relationship. That's as fast as you can go, no faster.
I would agree that being here tonight brings hope, definitely. What also brings hope to me is seeing the eagerness that I have been able to witness in many of our congregations. The question, what can we do? How can we help? And jumping in creating affinity groups to respond to the needs of the community. And then now finding ways in which how to connect with others so that our energy, our willingness to work shouldn't be done in isolation, but connecting and harnessing all the energy and resources that can be shared with the community at large. Yes. So that is something that is also brings hope to me. And the organized people that I've seen in other places, how their example also is teaching us in a way in which we can organize too. Probably not the same because the context vary, it can be different, but we need to learn also from their experiences, how we apply those to us. And the other thing I would also say is that there is the tendency to fix things right away. I will agree that we need to slow down. We don't have to fix it, but we also need to spend time listening so that we can respond in a way in which is appropriate and necessary.
Thank you. You know, maybe this is a good time for us to do a little bit of breathing, actually, because it's heavy, right, what we're talking about. So I'm going to ask us to just wiggle around, get a little comfortable, and intentionally, mindfully, when you take in a breath, I want you to follow where the breath came from. Just imagine where that breath came from, you know? And as you breathe out, breathe in, breathe out naturally, just take a moment, be mindful. That breath, that oxygen, that cocktail of carbon and oxygen and nitrogen, that came from phytoplankton in the ocean and trees around us and plants everywhere. It came to us free. We don't pay for it. The earth wants us to live and thrive. That's it. Like every other living being on this planet. All the earth wants is that we turn our faces to the sun, right? And we thrive. This gives me so much hope. The earth's boundless compassion for us. We are so connected to one another. Each one of us is wearing clothes. Like 100 people were involved in that process. We drank water. Somebody built that pipe that got it in here in taps, right? Shoes we're wearing, the food we ate. Hundreds of people were involved in that process. We are always connected to one another. We are interdependent with all of life. Nobody gets to take that away. That gives me hope.
I draw my hope, I think, from three main sources. The first is the past, and the example of my ancestors, physical, spiritual, geographic, who faced challenges greater than I face, suffering greater than I endure, and nonetheless persisted. The hope of the present, which is the positive example of other people in other communities and here in this community who again and again continue to risk vulnerability, risk themselves even in the face of great loss and hardship, nonetheless show up for each other. I want to live up to those moral examples. And then the third source is the source of the future, the unknowable beauty of a liberated world. Right? The thing that I know that I cannot imagine in its fullness. It is beyond my grasp. But just trying to imagine how beautiful the world will be when the incredible expenditure of resources that is necessary to oppress people is released, and the creativity that is kept bound up by that oppression is able to be loosed upon the world, right? It's like Public Enemy said, right? Takes a nation of millions to keep people down. How beautiful will the world be when we're not wasting ourselves on keeping other people down anymore?
One of the things that we have to remember, if you close your eyes right now, just close your eyes and remember, you were once a little spirit, innocent, born of innocence. All of us were. These are learned traits. If we were all colorblind, would there be racism? If we're all of one mind, this racism wouldn't even be here. It's in our minds. It's power, it's greed. Just think if there was no Republicans or Democrats, there wouldn't be any racism. All of us need blood. All of us need water. All of us need food, nourishment. We all need love and respect. That's what we need to get back to. That's what this is about tonight. Love and respect of one another. It's not about guns and bullets. It's about loving our neighbor, loving our brothers and sisters, protecting one another. Which?
If y'all would just grace us with we got a couple questions from you all. Can we just do that for a second, please? We don't all have to answer this question. Somebody that's bold enough to be the one to answer it can answer that question, all right? So that we can make sure we get as many as we can. One question was, I have felt hatred toward Trump, and now I'm angry at those who supported him. How do I diffuse their ugly hatred that I feel? I'm not doing that one. I think it goes back to Brian's point. It's like, how do we create the table? Because we have to insert ourselves into conversations in order for there to be any kind of dialogue. If we only want to be, as we talked about earlier, siloed, if we only in our silos, then there isn't space for that conversation to happen. So the table has to be expanded so that we cannot just live in a situation where we're Midwest nice. So that means you got to get into that.
How do you do that?
How do you do that? Man, you got to be from Texas. You know, we love conflict. Cowboys and conflict, right? That's cowboy. But you have to be willing to have those hard conversations and sit in the space even when you don't agree. I could tell you as a pastor, a black pastor who's LGBT, open, affirming, and who's been pushing for a long time, one of the things that you have to be in spaces, you have to be in spaces with people who don't believe like you believe, and yet still challenge them around the issues of love. And sometimes what trickles out is humanity. Sometimes we angry, and I'll be like, you be, At the end of the day, we have to find the space, not in agreement, but in that humanity that holds us together. Because we believe in our tradition, sometimes you plant the seed, God waters, somebody else gives the increase. So maybe our job is to be aggressive seed planters and not just be, I'll be very aggressive to plant them seeds and be firm in our commitment to love, but that doesn't mean you become a wimp on the backside of that. Does that make sense? All right, here we go. I love this one. I'm not answering this question. What do you think about nonviolent offense? I'm from India. Gandhi involved himself in boycotts and non-cooperation and general strikes against the British Empire. So what do you think about nonviolent offense? Anybody?
I mentioned okay, good. I mentioned earlier that I briefly was in the Twin Cities last month, and I think that is their moral lesson, right? The people of Minneapolis and St. Paul are not sitting on their hands in the sense of being nonviolent. They are being very active, present in the streets, in places of business. They are disrupting business as usual. They are, frankly, keeping the ICE agents in their hotel rooms awake at night by singing so loudly, right? They are not physically harming other human beings, and that's an important line to keep. But that is not stopping them from being an active, felt presence that cannot be ignored in their community. They're showing the disapproval of their community to the people who have invaded it and made it unsafe. And I think it's a deep moral imperative that we prepare ourselves for like action in the event, which is not a certainty, but I believe is a possibility, that we are eventually treated to the same sort of invasion that Minneapolis and St. Paul are still enduring.
Absolutely. Nonviolence just in and of itself is an offensive tactic. We saw in the civil rights struggle at Selma and other, the Freedom Riders and in other protests, just by being nonviolent, they caused an establishment, an institution to respond to them and be violent toward them and create a moment where action had to happen. And so I think just nonviolence in and of itself means there is an offensive that's taking place. Absolutely.
And then last but never least, in this question, I thought it was an important one, and then I'll let Tim come back up and summarize us out. And I think it's more to Brian's question. In your faith tradition, how does the goddess energy, the divine feminine, intertwine in your institutions? Y'all want me to repeat that? Y'all talking about we trying to break down patriarchy here. Here we go. In your faith tradition, how does the goddess energy, divine feminine, intertwine within your institutions? Whew. Art picked it up. All right. Whew. All right.
Well,
good.
well, we look at this. We all call it Mother Earth.
Come on.
Mother Earth, Mama Konano. We have two spirits. Mother Earth, protect us. Mother Earth is here. We have to replenish her. Our big drums, our ceremonies revolve around the drum and protecting that drum, that spirit. The first thing you hear is your mother's heartbeat. The first thing you see is your mother coming out of her womb. You don't hear it say, you came out of a man's womb. It was a woman. But all of us, each one of us here, were created the same way. No of us came out of a man, and we're all a white spirit. We're all a white spirit. We all need each other as brothers and sisters.
If y'all would join me in giving some applause to these wonderful panelists tonight. Come on, y'all. Come on. Thank you all so much. I'm humbled to be in the fight and the struggle with them. Tim will come and give us some final directions for our weekend as we prepare tomorrow, and not just tomorrow, but Sunday, but also for the next steps for our journey together. Again, I want to say man, I've been a part of a lot of panels, you all, but tonight I felt the movement of the creative energy in a different way. And so I'm grateful for your vulnerability, grateful for your sacrifice and your love and the energy and the grounds in which we stand on in this place. Come on, Tim, close us out with some closing instructions.
Thank you, brother. I want to just take a minute and echo Tequila's advice. Let's just breathe together. We are all light beings. We're here to love. And these panelists reminded us in the best of ways. That's what we're here to do. And I believe that unity and nonviolent unity is our best hope. Yes, we are with Voces de la Frontera. Yes, we are with the Poor People's Campaign. Yes, we are with the Democratic Socialists of America. Yes, we're with the Baptists, the Unitarians, all the other Christians, the Muslims, the Hindus, the Jains, all of us. Whatever you are, let's be part of the great unification. Indivisible, the Green Party, the Socialists, the Communists, anarchists, come home. All of us, the Democrats, the Republicans, let's take our labels and just put them over there. Let's be humans. So, this weekend is our call to action to be human. Tonight, we listen to faith leaders. Tomorrow night, we listen to the elected leaders. Also, in my mind, spiritual leaders. Reverend Barbara McKinney's back there. She's going to be one of our panelists tomorrow night. Thank you, Barbara. And then after we hear from elected leaders who give their lives to try to make the common good better, and we get to ask them questions about how important and what is nonviolence, and what will you do in your body of government to help make sure that we are moving forward as a human family. Then we all get to come to the Capitol. Now, generally, we don't encourage people to drive cars, but this weekend, get that old car fired up, decorate it beautifully, and meet us at the Capitol at 1 o'clock. The city's going to slow down a little bit. We've been advised to slow down. We're going to slow down the city. Part of our strategy is disruption and to make a big splash. Help. Tell everyone you know. Decorate your car. We got some signs out here. We'll have more signs tomorrow night when we go to Reverend Kelly Aspruth Jackson has invited us to the First Unitarian Society, the beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright building. We'll actually be in the newer version down below in the big atrium auditorium and having a potluck. So break bread with us tomorrow at 6 p.m. and then the program starts at 7. And then on Sunday, meet us at the Capitol. About 1:30 after you've driven around the Capitol a few times, park your car and come to Grace Episcopal, yes, Grace Episcopal Church, where we'll get to hear from some more great speakers. Some people who didn't get to talk much tonight will get to talk to us a little more. We'll be singing songs. There is going to be songs. It's a assembly of joyful resistance. Amen.
So thank you all so much. Continue to join us for the weekend. And in true Baptist style, we always say, hug about 7 people, tell them God loves you, and so do I. So good night. All right, good night. See y'all next time. Find about 7 people. 7